What will it take to build an economy that allows people to thrive? That is what we're going to discuss during this session at the Disruptive Innovation Festival, the festival of ideas that allows us to ask the question, what if we could redesign everything? The economy is basically describes all decisions that humans make, both individually as collectively. It should serve humanity and it should enable us to thrive. But it is expected that in the year 2020, 37% of all children in the UK will live in relative poverty. Something is wrong with our current economy. And today's speakers think that the future economy should be circular and human-centered. The studio might look empty, but I have three guests online today. The first guest is Claire Brass. She is the director of Department 22, offering circular economy innovation consultancy and training. The second guest of today is Alexandre Lemille. He is the writer of the famous socially inclusive circular economy 2.0, where not only waste, but also poverty is designed out of our systems. He is also co-founder of the African Circular Economy Network. And our third guest of today is Mike Tennant, the director of the MSc Environmental Technology in the Centre for Environmental Policy at Imperial College London. Welcome, everybody. And I would like to start off by asking you all one question, also to introduce your point of view. So my first question is to Mike. Welcome, Mike. Let me start off by the question asking you, why? Why a human-centric economy? The current concept creates growth and drives efficiency. So isn't that sufficient enough?
Hi, Emma. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here, and welcome to all the differs. Hi to all the differs out there. I think it's important to actually have a definition of what we mean by human-centric, and I'm sure that Alex and Claire have their own ideas about how they would define this. But I think you said it really well in your introduction. An economy that actually serves humanity, and I think that we don't actually see this when we look at our current economy, our current linear ways of doing manufacturing and industry. We see more humans serving people, societies, individuals actually serving the economy rather than the other way around. Yeah, it creates jobs. So does anything. I mean, I think that's a really weak argument nowadays, and we need to be going beyond that and really thinking about how we can tackle fundamental needs. Look at Maslow, Max Neef, Nussbaum, people like that. Ideas of security, identity, solidarity, and if we don't have that, we don't have an economy that works for people.
Great, thank you. And the next question is to Alex. Alex, in your writings, you agree that jobs and growth, as designed today, as a spin-off from a circular economy, will not work for the so-called human sphere, and this human sphere is a concept that you introduced also in one of your writings. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, for sure. Hi, Emma. Hi, all the DIF online. Thanks for having me. Well, basically, the recent human sphere suggestion, where I suggest to integrate the human sphere into the butterfly diagram, is based on the concept of circular economy 2.0, where we not only look at designing waste out, like in circular economy as you suggest, but also look at designing poverty out. The reason behind that is that I believe that there is a missing social dimension in the way we would like to address the next economic model. We talk more and more about embedding the social, the economic, and the environmental, and we really need to go down that route into one approach to that, because the linear economy has designed an economy of the 1% versus the 99%. And everybody knows that we can't go any longer in that direction. So the human sphere is addressing 4 strategies and suggesting a new role for humans in that circular economy that I will elaborate later on. And it talks about creating new kinds of activities and new kinds of jobs in a different way to approach the human goals.
Great, thank you, Alex. And Claire, our third guest of today. Claire, you have a design background, and there are lots of variations on how people see the circular economy and their interpretation of the circular economy. And what is your expectation of the role that design could play in a circular economy and in the transition to a circular economy?
Thank you, Emma. Very nice to be here with you. Thank you very much. So my perspective on this human-centeredness is a little bit different than Alex and Mike's, not because I disagree with them, but because I'm looking at it from the perspective of how do we actually make sure that a circular economy can happen. And for me, human-centeredness is at the heart of, it's exactly the reason why circular economy needs design. Design is not just a means to change the physical aspects of our economy, so our products, in particular, and we often think about design as a tool for redesigning stuff to make them circular economy ready. But the really important role of design, from my perspective, is that designers have to also ensure that people really want to engage and embrace these changes that we're all planning on introducing. And I think this has been at the heart of what designers have done for our current economy, and we've become really good at deeply understanding what will drive people to change. And if you want people to change the way they do their everyday things, those options need to be more desirable, more visible, easier to use, and provide more value to people. So for me, the human-centeredness is really about how do we make it happen.
How do we make it happen? And if we look at the circular economy, which needs to be more human-centric, what do we actually mean with this human-centric element? Do we mean this as part of a framework of the circular economy? Some also refer to it as a mindset. But some companies sometimes also call it a toolbox of methods. So Claire, what do you think the human-centric element means to a circular economy?
So I think it is all of those things, and I think fundamentally it's really an approach to life in general. And as I said, something that designers are really good at. We know that it's been a very successful approach so far in making businesses work. But basically, this is not only about customers, it's about people in general. It's about getting under the skin of what people think and what they do and what they're prepared to do differently. What we need to be trying to do is providing means of people changing the way they do things without necessarily even being aware of that they're doing something more positive. Although I think that this will enable people to engage wholly in a whole different system.
And what do you think about that, Alex? Because Alex, in your writings, you talk a lot about poverty also as part of waste, of the element of waste. Do you agree with Claire about this human-centric mindset? If you look at your view on the circular economy from that angle?
Okay. In my writing, I just recognize that there is no such thing as waste in nature, and there is no such thing as poverty in nature. So these are two human inventions. And that's the thinking that has been behind those writings. The third aspect is about looking at a new way to measure the creation of value, because only humans understand and perceive value, and we will talk about that later on. So, but when you talk about poverty to businesses, obviously they are often running out of the door, because in a linear economy and mindset, corporates have nothing to do with the aspects of poverty, and they don't feel like they should be having a say on that topic specifically, because they don't feel like they are expert and it's too far away from their business. So instead of talking about poverty, the approach is to say, how about not necessarily designing a human-centric circular economy, but a balanced economy between a human sphere, a biosphere, and a technosphere. So by setting up a human sphere in between the Ellen MacArthur Foundation butterfly diagram, where on the left-hand side you have the biosphere and on the right-hand side you have the technosphere, we set up a sphere related to human roles and human change of behavior. Our behavior should be changed in relation to the biosphere, and our behavior should be changed in relation to the technosphere. And when you look at those behavior change and mindset change, you perceive the new roles that human could play, and the main two thinking behind that is that we are also a stock of resources, and we are also flows of energy and flows of resources. So how about when you make a decision at corporate level as well as organizational level, public or private, think about involving human as a resource or human as a stock of matter or stock of energy before going straight into technology development, or before or into changing the way we behave towards the biosphere.
And how do we, you say, like, see humans as a stock and see humans as like a third loop in the butterfly diagram, but how can we actually see humans as one of these extra loops? How can we see humans as a stock?
Well, I have defined two business models. One is strongly influenced by Walter Stahel performance economy, which is human as a service. So basically, we are energy, and we are insatiable energy. We are in need of more energy in the future. And we know that if we go straight into technology, the technologies like, you name it, I mean, all computer-based, all mechanical-based technological development rely on strong and endless stock of resources which we are running out. So why don't we tap into the stock of resources which is abundant, which is humans? I mean, why don't we turn around the question of, we are scared to be 10.5 billion people by something like 2050. How about saying, we have this abundance of stock, we have this energy, we have this stock of matter and endless services, that if we remove tax from that stock, which is elaborated by the X-Tax project and by Walter Stahel, therefore we can be part of decision-making processes taken at corporate level as well as governmental level. And therefore, instead of going straight into robots, we could be the engine of the robots of tomorrow, obviously while preserving the value of humans and making sure that we are not being, we are in control of the situation. But we are endless energy, and we are endless resources, and that's the good news about it. So how about turning around the way we think and say humans' roles could be human as a service on one end, which is our business model towards the technosphere, and human as resources and as endless energy on the other hand, which is our new relationship with nature. We are nature, and we should follow the strategy of the ants. Remember that the ants weigh more than us, 7 billion people on the planet. So, and the ants are rebuilding the biosphere every day, like the worms. So how about changing the behavior, adaptation strategy of humans into rebuilding the biosphere by changing the way we behave? And just to give you a quick example, in China as well as in Africa, people are hand pollinating fruit trees because the bees are missing. Therefore, the humans are rebuilding the biosphere using energy. And the same with John Dealue, having done some permaculture projects on large landscapes, rebuilding deserts and rebuilding dry mountains and turning them into lush forests. So we can change the relation with the biosphere ourselves without the needs of technology.
Thank you so much. And Mike, what are your reflections on this? Do you agree with Claire and Alex, or do you see the human-centric circular economy in a different light?
So I certainly agree with what they've said, and but I think we're coming at it from different perspectives, which is fine. I mean, I think we need lots of different perspectives to make this a compelling vision. So coming from it from a remodeling of the framework or from a design perspective, they're all helping us focus on the task that we have to do. The way that I think about this, though, is that the human centricity has to be a lot more foundational to how we actually think of the economy. So if we don't understand the circular economy as something that's built on environmental and human interests and something that's essentially constructed from those interests and needs, then we may only, and I'm hoping that Claire and Alex just jump on me and beat me for saying this. We may actually just be tweaking around the edges. So, but I would welcome a challenge on that, because I know it sounds quite pejorative.
Who wants to challenge Mike on this? Claire?
No, I don't really want to challenge Mike on this, but I do kind of want to challenge Alex on this, because my fear, especially based on what Mike has just been saying, my fear is that we end up with this kind of army of people that are no longer seen as individuals, but they're just seen by their ability to provide a service to everyone else in humanity or to the biosphere. I'm kind of scared of that removal of the individuality. I can see this, this army of people sitting on little wheels and making our energy, enabling other people to have energy. And of course, it's a very nice image that you put forward, but it will only work if we have a totally different economy already, because otherwise this is just like exploitation of human life in order to serve the few. So, at what point how do you begin to make that happen? That's my question to you, Alex.
Well, it's thanks for that, Claire and Mike. But step one of building a human sphere is to adopt what is suggested in the X-Tax project, or the value extracted tax project from Femke, and whereby several organizations are suggesting to different states to shift taxation from removing tax on labor and shifting tax on taxing non-renewable energy. So it's the principle that Walter Stahel is explaining, is that you need to tax what is scarce, and in an economy where scarcity will lead and will change the way we take decisions. Obviously, things that will be taxed will make you think twice before developing all that technologies that you think will save us in a linear thinking, like as we still do today. We are still thinking that way. Whereas in a world where you see those three stocks, the biosphere that we are destructing at a rate which is unaware of, and we need a drastic change of behavior as soon as possible on that. The biosphere is explaining us the flows of abundance, what abundance mean, and what endless regenerative systems are all about. So we need to learn from the biosphere and to stop depleting it. The technosphere is a stock that needs to be maintained and valued, and the best stock of resources available on Earth that is able to maintain the value of those components of material the longest way possible in the economic system are us, humans. Don't rely on robots to do everything. I understand what's going to happen with robots and artificial intelligence, but I'm saying, can we say something else? Can we offer another second alternative, or can we start thinking robots and technologies rely on a stock of resources which is depleting at a high rate? So Accenture has done the estimation by 2050 of billions of tons missing according to our current rate of growth. And with China, Africa, Latin America moving fast and into the high consumerism societies, where is this all going? So give me an alternative than looking at that stock of human and considering them as flows and stock of resources. And this is why we are on Earth, and this is why we are therefore, and we need to reconsider our role in that economy where abundant resources will be preferred to scarce resources. This is
like
very
to challenge
logical,
you
but
on
I'm
that,
happy
Alex.
to discuss that.
Yes, because what you're saying here is that that human resources are abundant, and of course that's true. But like, don't we want to tap into that possibility that AI and technology and digital technology gives us? Like, are you saying that we should kind of hold back on that to make sure that humans still have a role in this economy?
The human sphere and the 4 strategies are here to help the decision-making process. I'm not saying humans should be used everywhere. I'm just saying decision number 1, is my project going, or my solution going to destroy biosphere value? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then step number 2, is that project, are we able to involve human, considering them as stock of matter or stock of energy in that project? Yes or no? And step number, or at least, are we not going to destroy any human value by implementing that project? Step number 3, we go into the technosphere and we choose the way we want to implement that solution or project. So that's a decision-making process, protecting first the natural capital, then the human capital, and then the remanufactured capital. So it's just a decision-making process. I'm not saying everything should be human-centered. I'm saying it should be balanced to ensure an equitable world, because a world that you will be designing, a circular world, without considering that poverty is increasing at an alarming rate, inequality and inequity is completely absent of our world today. If you replicate that same rules in your circular economy, only us will be talking about circular economy, the people concerned about that, because the rest of the world will not care less. Try to answer the question, what's in it for me? So going back to Karl Polanyi's post-war economist historian, he's saying that we should focus on social needs beyond economic needs. And material circularity is great, but beyond material circularity, you need to address the social needs of the people, because how are you going to address enough services to a world of 10.5 billion people living like you and me?
And what do you think about this, Mike? Do you agree with his vision?
So I think there's a couple of things there. So I certainly agree that we need to tie in with Polanyi's ideas there. I've got a great quote here that I pulled out that I think addresses some of those ideas that Alex just mentioned. So this is from Andre Gortz, The Ecology of Politics, and he says that so growth needs to improve the quality of life through efficient use of resources, producing things differently, eliminating waste, and refusing to produce socially those goods that are so expensive that they basically can't be available to all or pollute. So we need to do all of these things, but we also need to say, well, no, we're not actually going to produce these things. But I think one of the problems there, and tied into this idea of technological change is that we need to have a really compelling narrative about what the circular economy does, because AI, nanotech, biotech, cognitive sciences, this whole idea of Industry 4.0 is incredibly compelling to a lot of people. You know, look what our smartphones do, and you can see that those types of things, people love them. If people don't love the circular economy, it really doesn't matter. You know, it's sort of game over, really.
So Claire,
Well,
do you want to react on this? And then we continue to a few questions of the online audience.
So I completely agree here with Mike, because I think and the point maybe I was trying to make is I don't quite understand what this new world of Alex's really looks like. I understand the principle of it at a theoretical level. I don't understand it at a human level. I'm not really sure. I can't picture in my mind what life looks like in this new reality. So I agree with Mike that I'm not saying it's a bad idea. Everything you say, of course, makes a lot of sense, Alex. But I feel like we need to be exploring and visualizing more articulately what does that mean for different people.
And what do you think, Alex? What does it mean for different people?
well, it's a matter of changing. I mean, the difficulty we have. I mean, I'm not saying it's a suggestion, okay? But the difficulty we have in our so-called emerged economies is that we've been relying on technologies for so many decades, and our societies are highly individualistic, sorry, and it has been about amassing wealth, and wealth has been amassed waste has been considered that you have been living a successful life based on the wealth that you have managed to grasp. And we know where it has taken us, because all these technologies have never been decided upon whether they will increase our ecological footprint or not. I know that we no longer talk about ecological footprint from a circular economy perspective, but to live that life, we use over 3 planets per year, and some countries are reaching 6, if not 7 planets per year. When you look at collaborative societies, and you know that I manage with my colleagues the circular economy network in Africa, you are inspired by the way societies are working in a collaborative fashion, because they understand better than anybody what scarcity means, because they have been living in a scarce world at all time, and now they would be happy to live the lush life that we live like in Europe. I understand that in our mindset, technology will save us. Artificial intelligence will do the cleaning and the washing that we don't want to do. I understand all of that, but until what extent? Until what limits? I mean, are we going to be able to increase material circularity enough to provide all those technological-based solutions to all the people on the planet? I mean, for once, we have we spend time to think about a new economic model that is not designed based on inequality at all costs and growth at all costs. So I'm just asking, can we press the pause button and think about an equitable society? I know it sounds very rosy, but this is what we need to design today. We need to design today an economy of survival, an economy where the human race will survive beyond 2100, and that economy needs to be equitable. Otherwise, your migrants rushing into European countries, this is just going to be a pilot phase. So if you don't integrate an equitable principle in circular economy, if you don't integrate that job creation, or not job like 8 to 5 p.m. Type of jobs, but activities that will keep human busy, whether it's an intellectual activity, physical, using us as a source of energy, and you name it. I don't mind. It's open for discussion. But if you don't keep human active, we will go into most probably into something that will become very soon uncontrollable, I'm afraid.
So quickly, before we go off to a short clip, Mike, how do we avoid the game over?
Is it? Yeah, I wish I knew. Sorry, Claire's laughing in the background. I can see, probably can't see it on the screen. But I think that one of the things I was going to say in the wrap up that I get, and I'll just say here now, there will be lots of different ways of thinking about the circular economy, and maybe some of them will work, maybe some of them won't work, but I think it's important to try to experiment with lots of different articulations of what we might mean by human-centered circular economy and see which one sticks. We can't predict which one's going to work, so whatever we do has to have broad appeal, not just to engineers as in industrial ecology, not just to the business case as in the circular economy that's framed at the moment, but to all sorts of people. And so it can't just try to tackle economic growth in a technological and scientific way. It has to look at other ways to achieve both social equity, as Alex said, but also to be environmentally effective as well. So that's how we do it. Easy.
Great. I'm going to leave this for part one. I see a lot of questions coming in from the online audience. So keep these questions coming because we will ask them in a bit to our speakers here today. First, I want to hand over to Nora, my colleague, and she will give you a heads up about some DIF sessions coming up today and some sessions that she's looking forward to. So I'm heading it over to you now, Nora.
Thank you, Emma. So this evening at 7 o'clock we have, GMT I should say, we have a session with Robin Bass from Google, which I think will be a really interesting one, looking at how Google sees human health working with the built environment and circularity. Also tomorrow at 3 p.m. we have Arizona State University together with the City of Phoenix showing us how they are using the Circular Design Guide with young business ventures in their city. And just a really good session, which I really enjoyed yesterday, was the session of how do we think like a 21st century economist. And that was a session which was a headliner yesterday with the acclaimed author Kate Raworth speaking about her book, Donut Economics. And of course, keep your comments and thoughts coming to us at #ThinkDiff. Back over to you, Emma.
Thank you so much, Nora. That was great. The next question for now is what is the system level change required to protect human value? And to kick this one off, we will tune in to a really short clip from Walter Stahel on the performance economy. You can find the full video on the DIF website, so go to thinkdiff.co and have a look at that video too. So let's have a look at this video now and then answer the question, what system level change is required to protect human value? There we go.
One single shift would make a big difference in favor of the circular economy, which is labor intensive but uses little resources. Do not tax renewable resources, and human labor, human work is a renewable resource. Tax things instead that you don't want, such as the consumption of non-renewable resources or waste or emissions. This will bring about the rapid expansion not only of the circular economy for manufactured capital, but equally for all other activities based on stock optimization. Caring services, such as health and education, will benefit from this shift as much as services to look after our natural and cultural heritage. A second reason to favor labor over energy is that labor is the most versatile and adaptable of all resources, with a strong but perishable qualitative edge. It is the only resource capable of creativity and with the capacity to produce innovative solutions. But human skills deteriorate rapidly if unused. A person who has been unemployed for a few years risks becoming unemployable, and that comes with a cost to the state. A circular economy has a greater need for labor than the linear industrial economy for structural reasons.
Was a clip from the video, The Performance Economy from Walter Stahel. So tune in to the DIF website to check out the full video. It's a 20-minute video and part of the series that we've created together with Martin Stutai. He also has a 20-minute video, and Ken Webster, his video has been released last night. So also have a look at that one. So what system level change is required to protect human value? We already talked about this transition towards prioritizing renewable resources over non-renewable resources. Alex, what are your reflections on the systems level change that is required for this? Alex? Maybe he's muted. Is he still online?
Sorry, I'm here.
There he is. Hi, Alex.
I was muted. So first of all, I must say that I'm quite aligned with Walter Stahel and the performance economy, because part of the thinking behind the human sphere is based on the performance economy. The system level change, again, first of all, if you want to protect human value, you have to include human in your equation to address the survival of human by the end of the century and beyond. And I don't think looking outside of the planet Earth will save us anyway. So how do we protect human value from a system level change is to embed them and to make sure that we are all exposed as much as we can to education, to awareness of regenerative systems, and obviously learn from nature and learn from ways to circle longer elements in our technosphere, so that we can ensure that the more we access solutions and things in our daily lives, the more we address the needs of the people before marketing the economic needs of the people. And we change as well the way we measure value. Obviously, our world is based on the measurement of GDP as the indicator of success. Again, the notion of success needs to be changed, and we need to understand what a circular solution and at what stage do we start creating a circular value. And we start creating circular value once our solution is involving a kind of regenerative process. So when we reach that process where there is no longer any negative footprint on the planet, where we reach that process where we do not harm nature, and where we reach that process where we use in a clever way the resources of humans that we have at hand. So education, awareness, and involving humans in the equation.
Yeah, and I want to continue on the education and awareness part of that, because Claire, I know that you've been involved in education and in higher education and a changing economy and design. What do you think are the major challenges for systemic change in that space, and where do you see positive change in education?
Well, I think that we are already seeing quite an incredible seismic shift in attitudes in society through I see it through the students that I'm teaching. I see students now really keen to really recognizing that we have a broken system, which even 3 or 4 years ago was not so evident. And they're trying to align their work with their personal values, which I think is really, really important, that people actually recognize that currently there's a split between their personal values and the way the world works. And people are feeling more and more empowered to do something about it. And we're seeing a lot more young and agile, disruptive businesses really challenging the corporate world, which personally I think is one of our big challenges that needs to be addressed. And actually, I think many big businesses are already feeling very threatened by some of these new and agile startups that we're seeing emerge onto the market. I think that's an absolutely fantastic shift. I think we need to encourage as much as possible an entrepreneurial approach to the circular economy and try to find ways in which we can really get in the faces of big corporate business and do things differently. And there's so much happening on the ground already that I think it's very, very exciting.
Great. I just want to put a question from the online audience in the mix. Maybe this one is a good one for Mike. So Mike, this one is from Marciano Garces, and the question says, could a human-centered circular economy be a key to achieving the sustainable development goals? What do you think?
I think it has to. I think that when you look at the SDGs, then a considerable number of those 17 really rely on a fundamental understanding of where individuals and societies actually sit, and so without really reformulating the circular economy to take individuals and societies explicitly into account in a foundational level, then we can't easily link with so circular economy is going to fit under SDG 12, so responsible consumption and production, but it links to others. It links to education, it links to poverty, it links to gender equality, and so we need that social link in order to integrate the SDGs. So absolutely, well done, Marciano.
And just one more question to all of you. So what kind of innovation or what kind of technology or what kind of societal change do you look forward to the most if we look at a human-centric economy? What kind of implementation of policies maybe? Claire, do you came up with some interesting ideas around startups in this space. What do you look forward to the most in our future economy?
Well, I really look forward to an economy which is much more taking into account the needs of, well, Alex has said it very articulately already, the needs of nature, the needs of the biosphere, and the needs of people. And I think that we should be encouraging our students and anyone who's interested in this space, we should be encouraging them to really be brave and create these different environments where we can try things out. You know, we're not very good at allowing ourselves to test things, to try things, to make mistakes. And I think we really need to make that possible for some of these new ideas to flourish. We need to encourage to try things, encourage people to try things out. I don't know if that answers your question really, Emma, but yeah.
What kind of things should people try out more, you feel?
Just new ways of, I guess, if we could try out some of the things that Alex is proposing now, that would be a really helpful, let's take those as a starting point and say, what does life look like if we are running a business that's based on these three principles, these three processes that he's proposing? So I would take Alex's process and get 100 people to set up a new idea, a new business idea, and see what happens.
And Alex, if you could redesign any pilot and you had an unlimited budget, what kind of pilot would you like to implement and try out?
What kind of pilot? Well, first of all, I mean, if you take the golden rule of preserving natural capital first, then preserving human capital, then you're preserving the remanufactured capital, not the manufactured one. Then I would say my pilot would be on regenerative principles, understanding abundance of flows, and understanding how to stop the depletion of the biosphere. That's your emergency number one. So any idea that, like I explained, that we are today able to replace bees ourselves, not at the scale, at the wider scale, wide enough. So how about looking at those examples where there are people out there who have been rebuilding, protecting, and using the word, the verb growth. The word growth is the only time where you can use growth. Is about growing the biosphere. That's the only time you can use that word. So the pilot would be on growing the biosphere, and by understanding obviously biomimicry, permaculture, blue economy, and the like. So how do we mobilize human energies? And we have all kinds of different energies and human matter as a resource to rebuild the biosphere, and that's definitely the priority number one. Just to provide a short answer to the question related to SDGs, the SDGs are not embedding the concept of circular economy as they are today, unfortunately. So to me, they are good. They could be better. And if you use the circular thinking to design the SDGs based on circular economy, designing waste out, and based on circular economy, designing poverty out, in a new way of measuring value creation, then you could possibly be very successful with your SDGs and more importantly, beyond the SDGs. But we are not there yet, but working towards that direction.
Thank you, Alex. And we're already heading towards the last part of this DIF session. And just as a closing remark, I would like to hear from all of the speakers today. How do you see the concept of a circular economy going forward in a positive way? And I would like to start off with you, Mike. How do you see the concept of a circular economy going forward positively?
Positively.
Yes.
So is that the implication that I'm going to say something negative if you didn't actually say that? What I'd like to do is I'm going to skirt around that question really, because I really want to build on what Claire said about entrepreneurs and experimentation. I think that, and that's positive. I think that it's incredibly important to experiment with different ways of doing things, but you can only experiment within the rules of the system. So go back, look at Donella Meadows' work on places to intervene in the system, and you'll see that taxes are really ineffective, according to her. But you'll see that if you look at goals of the system, then you're meant to have a much more effective leverage point. So to complement social entrepreneurs, market entrepreneurs, we also need institutional experimentation. So we need regulations, we need governments to actually have that experimental outlook on life. So I'm not going to be positive as to what they're doing because currently I'm in the UK and our government is pretty damn useless. But I'm going to say that that would be a positive thing if people had the courage to be more experimental at an individual and institutional level.
Great. And Alex, how do you see the concept of a circular economy going forward positively?
Well, that's very simple. The circular economy is a system-based thinking whereby we need to design a world and societies where everybody will be provided equitable chances for new type of success. So a circular economy that is designed for all is, to me, a very positive outcome because since we are into redesigning the economy from a helicopter point of view, that economy should be providing access to all the human beings on the planet. Otherwise, human beings will take care of you. So if you design that economy with material circularity, together with providing services that respond, that address the needs of each and every individual human being on the planet, then you will grant access to all these individuals to what they consider to be well-being. You consider well-being as per your own definition and your own culture. Other people consider well-being differently. But at least if we can move away from that dramatic linear economy where the 1% have won so far, and not give all the tools to the big corporates, but a circular economy is about providing the tools to the SMEs of this world, because we are in a distributed economy and all the flows should be distributed, be it the flows of wealth, be it the flows of energy and everything. So if you design a truly distributed economy, I will be happy and the future will be very positive.
Lovely. Thank you, Alex. And Claire, maybe a really short response to Mike and also your concluding remark. How do you see the circular economy going forward positively?
How do I see the circular economy going forward positively? I think that Mike and Alex, between them, have just said everything that I would say here. But I suppose for me, it's about highlighting and celebrating all the fantastic things that are already happening and trying to push those things and make sure other people are following in the steps of some of our most creative and talented people. So let's celebrate creativity and new ideas.
Thank you so much, Claire. Thank you so much, all speakers. This is already the end of this DIF session. There are a lot of questions online that haven't been answered yet in this session, and I'm going to ask the speakers to maybe have a quick peek at the discussion forum and give some answers to questions on the discussion forum after this session. Don't forget to tweet #ThinkDiff with your thoughts. I thought this was a really enjoyable session. Thank you so much for watching and see you later today at the DIF.